And that's finally the race on a Monday afternoon for many, Monday morning for many others. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm take a picture really quick of the points so I can read them off. Zoom in. Got it. All right. It's a Monday stream, so I just already knew it was going to be kind of different. But thank you guys all for coming on in. Be sure to like up the stream and subscribe to the channel, and let's get right on into it. We got 2 races remaining in the regular season. Daytona is now what, 5 days away? So it's coming down to crunch time here. Here's what we got right now, playoff-wise. Kyle Larson still leads with 4 wins and 3 apiece for Bell, Hamlin, and Byron. 2 for Reddick and Blaney. 1 for Cindric, Elliott, Logano, Suarez, BK, and Bowman. Looking at the cut line right now, tightening up little by little still. Still keeping it pretty close. 13th, MTJ, plus 77 now. So his net gain or loss, he lost 1 point in this race. Not too bad. Ty Gibbs, plus 39, means he gained 21 points in this race. Buescher, now from 3 below the cut line to 16 above it in 15th. And the last man standing at the moment gained 4 points, plus 1 at the moment in the playoffs is Ross Chastain over Bubba Wallace, which we'll talk about in a moment. Looking at the finishing order of this race, the 2024 Firekeepers Casino 400 at Michigan International Speedway, 206 laps. It was, let me make sure I have the right one in. Yep, 3 hours, 4 minutes, 12 seconds, 26 lead changes among 16 leaders, 7 caution flags. Oh, man. Now, looking at the way it finished off, we have first place, Tyler Reddick. Ends up winning. Best car today, got the win. At the end of this race, he was the best one out there. And I'm going to say this. If you don't think that it says Xfinity on the thumbnail. What? I don't. Oh, okay. I just making sure. I was like, I'm pretty sure I got the right one up, but well, I'll double check. It might be a if anyone's seeing a different thumbnail, it might be a YouTube glitch because YouTube's been glitchy lately. But anyway, if you don't think Tyler Reddick is a championship contender, you're dead wrong. He is definitely, I would say, the hottest hand consistency-wise. He's got the wins now. So watch out for Reddick in these next 12 weeks. We're 2/3 of the way, by the way, through the season. 24 of 36 races complete. So we just got a third of the season left to go, and we're done. William Byron finishes second in this race. Tried to charge up at the end. Got the lead on the first overtime, but it wasn't enough. Finishes second by about 1.5 tenths, and then half a second back is Ty Gibbs in third. Top 3 was the same as before the caution came out for the first overtime. Take of that what you will. After that, Kyle Busch, solid 4th place finish today. Had a chance at the win with the strategy, but just didn't have the tires to do it. Good to see Kyle Busch actually run like he should. Brad Keselowski comes home 5th in his home state. 6th is Chris Buescher. He was the top guy that took 4 tires, went from 18th, I believe, to 6th in the final 2 overtimes. Zane Smith charges up to a 7th place run today. After that, Daniel Suarez, another solid run at Michigan for Suarez in the next-gen era in 8th. 9th, Denny Hamlin, solid recovery for him after his problems yesterday. And another Michigan driver here, Carson Hocevar, 10th place finish, top 10 for Hocevar. Didn't get the greatest restart at the end, but was able to still recover up to the top 10 again. Ryan Preece, solid 11th place run. Noah Gragson, 12th. Stenhouse, 13th. Harrison Burton, 14th. I believe Elliott and Blaney got into each other on the final restart. Elliott comes home 15th. Michigan driver again, 16th. Eric Jones, 17th. Austin Dillon, a week after his very controversial win. And then the aforementioned Blaney in 18th. 19th is Michael McDowell. Justin Haley with a 20th place run today. 21st, Cody Ware. who was solidly on the lead lap for a majority of the day, got top 10 stage points earlier. He finishes 21st. 22nd, Josh Berry. 23rd, Daniel Hemrick. And MTJ, 24th, last guy on the lead lap. After that, one down for Chastain in 25th, Bubba Wallace 26th, and Alex Bowman 27th. Two down for Cindric in 28th, John Nemechek 29th, 4 off the pace, and last car on track, AJ Allmendinger 30th, 6 laps down. The rest of these drivers are out. Chase Briscoe 31st. We will talk about Corey LaJoie's 32nd place finish and the blowover that led to it in a bit, but absolutely insane stuff this weekend. The fact that we got not one, but 2 flips at Michigan of all places. I don't think any of us were expecting that coming in here. Joey Logano with a 33rd place finish, 34th, Kyle Larson, Bell 35th, and last place goes to Todd Gilliland. Now, I want to know, out of 10, what'd you think of this race? 10 being the best race ever, 1 being the 2008 Brickyard 400. Spam your number out of 10, what you thought of this race. I see a 9 already from Murph Turn. I see an 8. I see a lot of 8s. 7.5s, 7s. Generally, people seem pretty positive about it. I know that it getting moved to a Monday, it really kind of dampers the mood for a lot of people. I get that. But still, if you're just looking at the race itself, I thought it was a pretty good race. I'd give it an 8, personally. 8 out of 10. I thought very solid race. A lot of changes for position. I think the dirty air is still an issue with the next-gen car. Not as much here as, say, like some other tracks, like a Dover, for instance. But there's still room for improvement with this for many reasons. But I'm going to go 8. I see 6 point, just infinite 9s on there. By the way, on the community tab, we do have the poll open. And it's a pretty solid turnout from most people out there so far on the voting. I get it's a Monday. A lot of you guys are probably at school or work. But, I get it. I see like Need for Speed in the chat saying 7 because the late race caution really pissed me off. I get that. I think Eric put it right on Twitter when he had said that NASCAR is just allergic to natural finishes. We'll talk about that caution in a bit as well. Let's get to the race. Let's start with the Sunday portion of this event. Denny Hamlin sat on pole. Metric qualifying was the way they had to go about it because of weather and everything going around. They rolled the cars out a little bit, had to stop them right off the bat and wait over 2 hours before we got it rolling again. And obviously, that the last 3/4 of this race was on a Monday. I know that people will criticize this, but I do think that it's true that these tracks without lights need to have mandatory 1 Eastern time or earlier start times. Anytime between, I won't say 11, but probably noon and 1 should be the start time for any track without light. Michigan, Dover, New Hampshire, just because we keep having this problem where we run up against the time window, because in the middle of summer, it is pretty normal to have afternoon thunderstorms. Now, I know it's not a fix-all. It can still rain at noon. It can still rain at 1. It still can rain at 7. You name it. It rains any time of the day. It's the summertime. But the idea of it, to me, is you widen out the biggest possible window for your race to be run in. So instead of, I get the TV number would be good. If this race ran the full length, I bet it would be an increase over the last race that ran the full length on Sunday. But just for the sake of, one, the fans at home, all of us who either have to go to work or school, but also those 50, 60, 70,000 in the stands, who a majority of them could not come back today. I like the idea of trying to make the widest possible margin for those people at the track who paid the money to be there. I saw like a lot of people, media and industry wise, being like, "Oh man, it sucks. We got to be here longer. We got a short week going to Daytona and all that." And I get that, but for them at least, that's part of the job going in. For a lot of these people in the stands, especially, this might be their vacation for the summer. And I think that NASCAR and the networks owe them the ability to see the most possible amount of race. Might not have worked this time, Depending on how the time was in rain earlier in the day, it might not even worked out to run a race to the distance. But I think that's something that future-wise, especially with these new broadcasters like Prime and Turner Sports coming in with Warner Brothers, I think that's something they should look at since they're the ones who will be holding the vast majority of these summer races. Rumor is that Michigan's getting moved back to Father's Day weekend. That's at least the rumor that's been passed around a lot. Not sure if it's true just yet. Maybe that'll fix it. I don't necessarily think so, but just an option. All right, long-winded noon discussion out of the way now. Talking about the race, once we finally got it started, we got going, and it was a bit of a slow burn to start out with. You got Larson. He early on, lap 1, took the 45 and the 11 3 wide for the lead. I think that was pretty fun to watch. I'll say this: the racing itself was not the issue this weekend. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought the racing, especially in the Cup race, really good. Love that this car can match up better with Michigan. And if this track will just wear down a little bit, I think the racing will be even crazier. It'll be reminiscent of Auto Club with this car. But great run on his part early on in this race. Other than that, though, it really wasn't until about lap 35 or so. We had Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson. They were the early two that were dominant in this race. I see some saying there, by the way, I'm just going to address this again. I see some saying that there's the Xfinity thumbnail on it. I can try and re-up it again, but YouTube is just screwing it up. There's not much I can do about it. I will try redoing it right now just so it makes it better for you guys. But yeah, it's not fixing it on. Let me fix it. Because I know a lot of people will get all upset about it, even though it really doesn't make a difference. So I'll fix it. I'll fix it one more time. I tried twice before, and it didn't seem to help. All right. For those saying that it's not that way, let me know if it worked. But anyway, Bubba Wallace screams by the 5 and the 11 early on in this race. They were just, again, side drafting back and forth, trying to get the edge over one another, and he just flew by him. He said later in an interview he thought that they were stopped for a caution. They were slowing down because of how slow they were going. He said he had to check for a caution just to be sure. That's how fast the 23 just screamed past him. Of course, there was pitting late on in the stage, as there normally is. By the way, they're showing on screen right now what happened with the 9 and the 12. There were 3 wide, 12 up top, 9 in the middle, 6 down low. Keselowski, no contact. Looked like Elliott just kind of drifted up into Blaney, and they fell back at the end there. I don't think it's anything egregious that Chase Elliott did. I think he's racing hard at the end, and he just slid up the track. It sucks for both of them, but that might be a big deal towards the next 2 races, depending on what happens at Daytona for the regular season side of it. Then Elliott got in the wall, and nearly as he was saving it, it looks like nearly took out Harrison Burton. So rough finish for Chase Elliott out there after running top 5 most of the day. Anyway, stage 1 ends with Blaney winning it over Elliott, ironically enough, as we're talking about what just happened with them. After that, you got William Byron, Bubba Wallace, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch in 6th, Brad Keselowski, Martin Truex Jr., Alex Bowman, Ross Chastain. And then we get the red flag for rain, and we're postponed to today. I want to point this out right now before we go any further. As starting out stage 2, starting out today's race, Kyle Busch actually pulled a slider and took the lead early in the stage. Kyle Busch looked like Kyle Busch today. He was racing up front. He was able to be aggressive with his car. I don't know what RCR was doing over the break, if they were like preparing the 3 car for Richmond because he's good there and because Kyle was better suited maybe for Michigan. They were preparing the 8 car better for Michigan. I don't know. But that's 2 weeks in a row we have seen winning or at least top 5 speed from the RCR cars. Not going to say that it's the changing of the tides by any means. It's 2 races. It's not even really a pattern yet. But it's something to keep an eye out at the end of this season. There's been a lot of talk about Kyle Busch possibly leaving RCR because of the poor performance. if they're able to turn some more stuff around, test stuff at the end of this year, they're probably not going to make it. Kyle Busch, 93 points out of the cut line right now. I mean, he could be eliminated points-wise from the playoffs after stage 2 at Daytona. There's no way he's making it on points. But even if they don't make it and they're able to test some stuff and be better for next year, that might be something to watch silly season-wise if RCR takes a swing up or not. I'm not going to say anything just yet because, again, 2 races, way different tracks, 2 different drivers having 2 different races both times, but something to watch. Of course, Kyle Busch's lead didn't last too long. It wasn't completely old school Kyle Busch. Monday Martin took the lead for a little bit. And then we had some just weirdness. So we had pretty normal green flag pit stops in this cycle. We had no major penalties, really. We had some cycling out of the 5 ahead of the 19 and back and forth. The weird part is lap 108 and 109. We are under commercial, but we see on the split screen Todd Gilliland is smoking, has a flat tire. Logano has a right rear flat. He's smoking. Tire carcass goes up the track. They throw the caution. Next shot they show, I believe, was AJ Allmendinger. Stuck on the track. He had a flat on the front stretch. Just all around a very weird sequence of events. 3 flat tires, seemingly all separate teams and setups. No similar reason other than maybe low air pressure. But absolutely wild. So we get it back restarted. Busch gets the lead on the restart over Ross Chastain. They stay out on older tires while the rest of the field pits. And the stage ends with the big one. It's funny because a lot of the talk the last week or so, whether it be from his interview or one with Max Verstappen, is whether or not Kyle Larson is the best race car driver in the world. And Kyle Larson was the one who spun pretty much on his own. I know the field got backed up and all that. I saw a lot of people blaming Cody Ware. But Kyle Larson spun pretty much on his own, collects the 17, the 20, 14, 38, 23, and 22. I would say out of all of them, I think the only one that really had a comeback, a noticeable comeback, was Buescher coming back to 6th. But that knocks out a bunch of them late. And it was a big change, I think, when you look playoff-wise, because you got the 23 caught up in it. Bubba Wallace right on that cut line, bubble battle. You got Kyle Larson racing for the regular season championship as well. Remember, 15 bonus points added in for whoever wins that. He's in a tight battle, I believe, with Reddick, Elliott, and Denny Hamlin. Hamlin, Elliott, and Larson all having problems today. Again, do not sleep on Tyler Reddick the rest of this season. But what it ends up being at the end of this stage is Busch winning it, which I believe is his first stage win since last season. Definitely the first one this year. I can't remember the last one he won. Ross Chastain second. Desperately needed points. Ty Gibbs third, Byron and Dillon the top 5, then Keselowski, Truex, Jones, Blaney, and Cody Ware top 10 in stage number 2. So yeah, wow, Larson 32 back of the regular season points lead. And going to Daytona of all places, which has not been kind to the driver of the number 5 car. That is for sure. Very rough, but this was again, maybe not the perfect way because of the end. We'll talk a little bit about the restarts. Maybe not the perfect way to get there, but result-wise, this was the perfect day if you're a Tyler Reddick fan. Absolutely perfect day. All the guys you're racing against have trouble, cause their own trouble on their own, some of them. You win the race. Looking points-wise, I mean, I don't have them up on me unless maybe like Bob posted them. I can look it up, but I would have to think if he's not leading, he has to be like within single-digit points. Like, there's no way that he couldn't be. Maybe J-Ski has them. If you know where they are, let me know. That if they're up on like ESPN right now, I can go and look at the way it is. Let's see. Cody Ware earned 2 stage points. So you finished 9th in the stage or 10th? I thought he finished 10th in the stage from what they were showing. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. quietly solid day for Cody Ware's standards too. I know a lot of people like to clown on him, but I mean, guy ran what, 21st today? Got stage points. Justin Haley top 20. I mean, solid day for Rick Ware. A lot of it had to be attrition too. I mean, I have a feeling of the guys that are out, at least 5 of them for sure would have finished ahead. But that's the thing. That woulda, coulda, shoulda on that one. They're the ones that finished 20th and 21st, which again, for Rick Ware Racing, we can laugh at them all we want. It's way better than they've been in the past. Let's get on into the final stage here. We get a pretty even restart between the 8 and the 24. It's kind of funny as I wrote that down. I'm thinking like, man, is it 2004 again? Byron gets it though. And okay, here's where we're going to talk about the fun stuff here. Stage 3, the final stage, had some interesting occurrences, starting with on lap 136. I'm going to take a drink of water before we get this. Click the like button, subscribe if you're new. We do it after every single race. And by the way, tomorrow night we're doing NWP 400 on IDK Players channel. Should be a lot of fun. I'll be co-commentating 160 laps, Gen 4, Daytona, What's Not to Love. And Wednesday night will be on Danny B's channel for NWP. Figure I get the shameless plug in there right now, right before I got to drink water, so I'm not sounding like this. Oh, man. Usually I am not as awake as I am right now on a Monday. Lap 136. We get our second flip of the weekend. Corey LaJoie kind of just gets in a little bit to the back of the 10 car and just straight up has a blowover. Just gets in the back of the 10, spins down the track on asphalt, wasn't on the grass. So I know a lot of you, grass causes flips side of the aisle might be needing to find a little bit of a different argument, though there were some different occurrences in this race that might have caused this to go a little more haywire. But Corey LaJoie just absolutely has a blowover, iRacing style. Gets on his roof. Once he gets to the grass, it starts tumbling. There's a couple things I want to point out about this and about how they talked about it. First off, Jeff Burton, quote, saying that is not acceptable. The roof flaps deployed, the flaps on the hood deployed. Like, everything was there. I'm assuming the one in the back near the diffuser probably did. But he's right. There's no reason a car just spinning like that should go for a tumble. I know a lot of people clown on Corey LaJoie because it's Corey LaJoie, but it's true. That should not happen. On the other side of it, there are a couple things adding into this, one with the next gen car, one with the weather today, that probably helped with this as well. First off, the weather side, tons and tons of wind out there. I know that's similar for a lot of races. You didn't see it though in previous generations, at least from my recollection. Again, maybe I'm forgetting something from 20 years ago. Forgive me, I was 6 or 7, depending on the time of year. But the flat underbody probably doesn't help either when it comes to these cars. What the hell is on USA Network right now? They're resuming their 6-day SVU marathon before we get to Daytona. That probably didn't help as well. That's just something with the next gen car that NASCAR is going to have to continue to address. This they do need to study that though. I do not think there's a reason that a spin like that should have that happen, regardless of the wind around it, regardless of the type of car. Like, that needs definitely to be fixed. And I see it, and USA surviving an SVU. But yeah, I mean, that was something that I was not expecting to see when I woke up on a Monday morning. And I see in the chat too, Zane Smith needs more credit. I give him credit, man. That team has turned it around. That team has turned it around. Removing the flat underbody will make blowovers less frequent as well as they make racing miles better. Yeah, I agree. They definitely need to, I think, address that in some way soon. I don't think they can do it this season, but I think heading into Daytona next year, that needs to be one of the priority lists, just so we don't see so many weird kind of flips like that. That one today was just weird to me. But it happened, and it was, of course, Corey LaJoie, so he started trending. We get her back restarted. The 24 and the 6 up front on the front row, racing hard. This time, instead of Kyle Larson obviously being out, it's Chase Elliott making the big 3-wide move. Solid moves all day, I would say, by those two Hendrick guys. Of course, through this run, we get our final green flag pit stops. A pretty long cycle, lasts from 47 to go to 13 to go. In this, Reddick early on takes the lead. They pit, and Elliott takes it back from Reddick. Of course, with this, Byron is ahead of both because he pitted beforehand. Busch, though, with 2 tires, gets out ahead of all of them. And it's pretty much a 6-car battle towards the end of this race. You got the 8 right up front. You got the 24 trying to charge up, but a bit older tires. You got the 9, the 45, the 19, then 54. 6 cars. Probably the most 6 solid all day that didn't crash or crash themselves out. And with 25 left, it's Reddick getting past the 8 car. Looks like he's well on his way to victory until 6 laps to go, where Martin Truex Jr. makes some pretty solid contact with the wall. They called a caution almost immediately. And I'll say this, if he maybe dropped something off the car or something out of the corner down the front stretch, sure. But I do not think that should have been a caution, at least not that fast. I do want to pull you guys, though, on it. So, should the MTJ yellow have been called? So like we have a poll in the community tab. Let's put a poll up right now. Yes or no answers. I personally am on the no side. I think that they probably should just let it play out a little more naturally on this. Should have let him go down the straightaway. And again, if something fell off the car, sure. But I like the idea of having the race play out naturally. Even though it would have been a more boring finish, would have had the 45 running way out there. I think that after last week, maybe, again, nothing too crazy happened on the restarts. The best cars, or at least the cars that should have been up 1, 2, 3, finished 1, 2, 3. But to me, that's just really rough, man. That's a really rough call. After last week, after the call right before the break, too, that got a lot of controversy. This, I don't think, will get as much controversy. I'll say that. I saw some people saying, like, what's it really matter? Stuff like that, where that was not the sentiment the last 2 main finishes in overtime kind of races. But I'm not crazy about it. I'm kind of with a lot of you guys. I think NASCAR probably wanted to have at least a fun overtime, some kind of finish they could talk about. And that's what we got. So we go overtime number 1, the 45 and 24 up front, running for the win. Even restart into turn 1. The 24, though, ends up getting ahead. Cannot clear, though, but doesn't matter. He's ahead at the moment of caution. What happened in the caution? Well, the 48 smacked the wall in that. Wasn't called right away like the Truex one was, even though I think it was a harder hit. But with it, Ross Chastain goes around. He got stuck in the grass. And I'll say the one car looked like it was trying to get up in the air. Had he not been hit, that probably saved him. But he gets stuck in the grass because of the rain, because of this next-gen car, the way it's designed. And with that goes a lap down. And I put it on Twitter, but between Texas, Nashville, this one, there's probably 2 or 3 others I'm not thinking of because they're not as big, but Ross Chastain's probably left at least 100 points on the table this year, mostly not through fault of his own, but that one team should be way higher in the points, and I think a lot of people, whether he makes it or not, are probably going to look a little further down on him going into next year. I warn against that because the luck bank can go really, really well and also can go really, really bad. And this year has just not been good for the one team. So I'm actually going to put another poll out there for you in a moment. Seeing how we do have the playoff standings figured out as is. But we're going to end this one right now. 75% of you, 3/4 of you say that should not have been a caution called for when MTJ took the lead. 20 or hit the wall. God, again, it's a Monday. I'm energetic, but still it's a Monday. 25% said yes. For anyone wondering, I'm seeing people spell my name wrong. It's Jaret. Not Jared. Not Jarrett with unneeded letters. Just 1 R, 1 T. Jarrett. Figure I'd clarify that. But let's get the let's get another poll put up here. while we're at it. And it's just going to be a simple who misses the playoffs. And your options right now on the cut line, because I don't want to go too high up. I'm going to omit MTJ from this one, as I do think that he's pretty much safe. But as for the rest of them, Daytona, anything, if you're within 55 points heading into Daytona, which is the most amount of points you can make up without winning a race, you're not safe. I'm sorry, you're just not. So let's see. The multiple ways to spell my name that people are putting in there, I love it. So who misses the playoffs? Poll is up now. I want to see what you guys think on that one after this race. We got 2 races left, so I'd say Gibbs is definitely the safest. But as for the lower 3, it's rough sledding. So we get back going overtime number 2. It's inverse of the front 2 rows as they basically, the rows just flipped. And with it, Reddick ends up getting ahead with the lead. Byron tried to charge back, but it was a boring finish, as many would like to say. It was pretty much decided with the pass. Reddick gets the win. Best car out there at the finish wins this race. And I'm telling you, man, Tyler Reddick better be in majority of you guys' Final Four predictions, because he has been consistent. He's shown winning speed. That team is getting better as the years went on. 23-11 in total. Always seems to get better as the year goes on. I know Bubba Wallace currently a point out of the playoffs, but still, statistically, this has been his best playoff run season so far to date. And I'll say something else. A lot of talk too has been about the playoffs. Should it be like 10 drivers? Should it be the top 16? We need it to be harder to get in. And granted, through guys who probably shouldn't be in there, like Suarez and Cindric, you're still going to, have that argument. But I want to point something out. Why I think a lot of people think the current points battle is way more compelling than the previous years is, one, it's closer. But two, when you're looking at who is running for it, it's guys that aren't necessarily the favorites out there, but it's competitive teams that are around that, 10th to 15th range, but on the higher end of it. Martin Truex Jr., I think on regular season points around the top 10. Ty Gibbs, he's up around that point. Chris Buescher, Ross Chastain, they're all around there. Bubba Wallace, again, turned it on. Didn't have a good finish today, but very fast car before all the issues and everything that happened. And it's more compelling when you have good teams on the cut line. I just wish we didn't have bad or undeserving ones that were in there instead. But I think it's something to point out on that one, and why it's more interesting this year than, say, when you have the 3rd and 4th place guys. Yes, that part's interesting, but it's kind of BS that the 3rd and 4th place guys might not make it in, kind of thing, like back in 2022, I believe. Can't remember years well to save my life. That's at least my theory on it. But overall, very solid race. I'd give it, again, 8 out of 10. Moving into Monday, I thought would suck some of the air out of it. It did early on. They got into their mojo, I think, a little more towards the end of stage 2, into the final stage. But I'd say solid racing. Improvement still needed. Definitely check out what happened with that 7 car. But I'm overall happy that I got up at and watched a race at 10 a.m. This is what a Formula One fan feels like, I guess. Who makes it to the Final Four, the 20 or the 45? I'd go with the 45, but simply because the 20 is just too inconsistent, whether a fault of their own or not. That 20 team is either winning or wrecking. And, that second round, Kansas is a sneaky wild card in a lot of ways. There always seem to be 1 or 2 playoff guys, like a Truex last year, that get taken out in it. Talladega's Talladega, and the Roval doesn't matter how good you are. It's just the Roval's a weird track. So that's where I'm going with it. I personally, at this time, I don't see a weakness for the 45 team other than them getting in their own way or another team getting in their way. But again, one last time, talking about the playoff cut line, we got MTJ 77 above, Ty Gibbs plus 39, Buescher plus 16, Chastain plus 1, Bubba Wallace minus 1. I mean, mathematically, Kyle Busch is still in it, minus 93. And mathematically, Briscoe is in it, minus 115. But realistically, Busch and Briscoe aren't going to make it. But I'm excited. I think that I think Daytona should be a solid race, and I actually think Darlington will be a lot better to end out the regular season than people think. That's my thoughts, at least. I want to thank everybody that's left some super chats here. Let's finish off the stream looking at that. First one from Crash the Hedgehog 92 for the 5 says, can we take a moment to shout out Spire for the hot streak? 2 top 10s in a row. Yeah, 2 top 10s in a row, and 2 drivers in the top 10. Zane Smith 7th, Carson Hocevar 10th. Might not have got there necessarily from straight up speed, but still pretty good overall for them. Hocevar with an 8th place finish last week. I'm trying to remember. Let me go back to the Brickyard. Hocevar was 8th at the Brickyard. So 3 straight top 10s for Carson Hocevar. Let me keep checking if there's any others that were back there. Unless I'm looking at the wrong one. No, I'm not. Let me, I guess, look at Pocono and see if there. So last time that Spire didn't have a top 10 finish was Pocono. And even then, looking at the finishing order, it was Carson Hocevar as the lead guy. Hocevar is the top driver there. Love him, hate him, say what you want about Carson Hocevar. Kid's got talent. He just needs to harness it. Very solid summer stretch here for Hocevar and for Spire in total. I mean, Zane Smith, all but I think 1, maybe 2 races of like the last 8 has been top 17 or so. So that team is definitely getting a bit of momentum built at the end of this regular season. Again, they're not going to make the playoffs unless they win one of these 2 races, which I'm very doubtful of, highly doubtful of. But there's something I think future-wise to build for next year. Super Noob for the 2 says, LaJoy flips and his teammates finish top 10 with the crying emoji. It's been a rough year if you're a Corey LaJoy fan. It's stacking a lot of L's, not pennies. Twin Spinner for the 2 says, wish I could have stayed till Monday, missed a lot. Yeah, and that it does suck. I feel for fans out there. I've been at races at Michigan before. 2006, my first race ever I attended in person, was rained out at lap 129. 2012, I went there, and that race that Junior won, people forget, was delayed like 3 hours for rain. So it sucks. I've been in a lot of races that have been rained out before. I feel for you. SW for the 5 says, the LaJoy flip was unexpected. Once again, Bubba can't catch a break. Happy for Reddick. Yeah, I don't know anyone going into the day that expected to see a flip. I don't know anyone that expected to see 2 flips going into this weekend. Bubba not catching a break. It's rough, but the team is both good, I believe, at Darlington and Daytona. So even if they fall back, even if they crash at Daytona, like, I still think this team has the speed to compete. And Reddick, yeah, I mean, Reddick has to be in your top 3 right now. If he's not, I don't know what you're smoking, but I don't know. Revan Rashim Hall Stewart for the 2 says, Michigan should have a NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader. I'd like that. I think the problem is the fan bases don't mix. IndyCar fans are way different than NASCAR fans. Just fundamentally, I think their interest in racing are different. I was at the Indy NASCAR doubleheader back in 2021, and when the IndyCar race ended and they were about to go into the Xfinity race, everybody left. And I know a lot of people, NASCAR fans, who are like, I'll show up after the IndyCar race just because I don't care. I like it in theory. I just don't think it would necessarily work as much as we want it to. I'd love it, though. Alex says, to quote Samuel L. Jackson from Jurassic Park, favorite movie. Love that movie. It could have been worse. It could have been worse, John. A lot worse. I thought for a second before I read the whole super chat, I thought you were going to say, to quote Samuel L. Jackson in Jurassic Park, hold on to your butts. Blake for the 2 says, Shoe Carnival sells Dale Jr. Hey Dudes. Fun race. I did see that. And YouTube TV actually promotes it now on commercials, so that was pretty cool. And yeah, fun race. Kailito for the 5 says Bubba was even faster in a car, had an even faster car than Reddick. It's a shame he got caught up in that wreck. Yeah, I do think Bubba Wallace would have been up there competing for the win. I really do. I don't think I wouldn't count him out. Daytona could make, the thing with Daytona is it's a wild card. But people forget that, like, yeah, it could take you out of it, or it could take somebody out, or, you could lose 40 points. People forget a lot of times, too, Daytona tightens points races. Super speedways like Talladega, they tighten up points races, too. So that very well could happen. Napa Racing Fan 927 for the 5 says, buy Rick Allen in Cup. I'll miss aggressive goes around. Diffie will be good. Allen improved a ton. Rather have Michigan in the playoffs than Gateway. Okay. I agree with the Michigan statement personally. I like Gateway. I think it fit better, though, in early June, as long as weird stuff didn't happen. Yeah, but this is the last race for Rick Allen in the Cup Series for the foreseeable future, unless he gets signed on by Turner, Warner, or Amazon Prime. And it's kind of interesting when you look at it, too, because Rick Allen's first Cup race was also a rain-delayed and rain-affected race. It was a 2015 Coke Zero. Was it Coke Zero 400 or Coke Zero Sugar? I can't remember. I'm not going to do all this corporate BS. The Daytona Summer Race was his first race in Cup with NBC, and he will now kind of bookend it with now a Monday race. Kind of a sad ending for someone who I think got a lot better. I think got a lot of hate that he didn't deserve towards the end of his tenure, but I am excited for Lee Diffie. I think he's going to be really fun to listen to, especially at Daytona. You're just throwing him right into the fire, like right off the bat. Carl for the 5 says, early start times aren't all that great. Many of us have work early in the mornings, me 9 to 2, or other plans that ain't fair to us. I get that, but at the same time, it's like, it's not going to be fair for everyone. And the majority of fans that would watch later in the day are still going to watch early in the day at home. The only difference is you give the people, to me at least, you give the people at the track more of an option to be there. I understand that argument. But, like a lot of people be like, well, better later start times are better for X, Y, and Z, but there's also, 1, 2, 3 reasons why the earlier ones are. I am an old head with it. They're probably not going to change it. At least NBC and Fox aren't going to change it. Fox seems dead set on their 3:30, 4 p.m. start times moving forward. NBC is a little bit better with it. I believe actually, for Sunday races here, because this strictly I'm talking Sunday on it. I believe, yes, 2 p.m. start times Eastern time for Talladega, the Roval, 2:30 for Vegas and Homestead, and then 2 o'clock for Martinsville. So it's not like they can't do it an hour or two earlier and still have people watch. But I get the argument either way. Let's see, bring back the 1 p.m. I mean, I liked it back in the day when they would do the standard start times, like same start times all season long. I think the only difference was the Coke 600 because it is a different race, but it was 1 Eastern time. All this is Eastern time, like 1, 4, and 7. And I thought that was a pretty good balance, personally. Now, also at the same time, that NASCAR's network provider and ESPN, ABC, moved most of the races from ABC to ESPN and changed stuff, so the ratings went down. But I would like to see a modern day version of that where, again, and this is just for races at tracks that don't have lights. If you have lights, I think you're justified in later afternoon start times, because even if it's delayed like a Nashville, you still can race later in the day and into the night. But Michigan, you have these problems. You had the same problem at Chicago. All this hype built up, and it got rained out. It sucks. And again, it's not going to be perfect for everybody, but I'm hoping that's something they can at least change, at least for these weather-prone tracks, these Michigans, these Dovers, these New Hampshires, Pocono even though Pocono's been good the last couple of years to us. I hope that's a balance that can be struck. It doesn't have to be for every race. I'm fine not dying on this hill, and I'll watch no matter what, but I feel for people in the stands because I've been there before. Alexander for the 20 here says, these drivers like crashing into each other. The entire Cup Series should be invited to Kings Island and Marathon Dodgem, the park's bumper car attractions, and they can all get all the crashing out of their system. That's one way to look at it. I mean, I would love to see like what drivers last the longest in bumper cars. They did something similar to that for the playoffs back in like 14 or 15, because you had that meme of Jimmy Johnson just sort of staring into space with like that "what am I doing with my life" thought look on his face. Andrew for the 5 says, thanks for putting "Ironic" by Alanis Morissette in my head for the rest of the day. No problem. Sly Supersonic for the 519 says, see Jarrett, while spelling my name wrong. This race for Kyle Busch proved he's not washed. He just doesn't have the car most of the time. Kyle still got it. I'm not making any bold assertions either way. I'd lean towards he's at the tail of his career. I don't ever see Kyle Busch, regardless of the car, getting 5, 6, 7, 8 wins again in a season. But Kyle Busch can get a win or two a season. Like, he still has that talent in him. I don't think he is, late career terminal Jimmy Johnson, like from late 2017 through the end of his career and into now. Like, I don't think he's that far gone. I still think that I kind of liken Kyle Busch right now to Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski in 2022 sucked. A lot of people are like, he's washed. That was the dumbest move ever, moving from Penske to RFK. Oh, it's your own team, but that's great. Who cares? Didn't win last year. And then he won, and he's been a very solid driver this year. I think Kyle Busch can be that way again. In this system, you just need to be a solid driver that strikes it right at the right time to win a championship. And Kyle Busch, I think, still has that ability in him. I don't think he's washed. For anyone thinking that I'm fully on board with the Kyle is washed allegations, I am not fully on board yet, but I do think time is running out, and quickly. Father Time is catching up to old Rowdy real quick. Michael Kelly Gilliam, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships as well. Let's end the poll right here, right now. Who misses the playoffs? Rich Wilson leaves a super chat. I'll read that in a moment as we end the poll. And 42% of you say Ross Chastain misses it. 29% say Bubba misses it. 17 for driver 17, and 11% of you with Gibby. Rich Wilson with the 5 years says, there's absolutely no reason that an organization that just got a $6 billion TV deal should have venues that can't be utilized at night. So $7.7 billion, I believe, is the number, because they're getting $1.1 billion a year for 7 years. Yes and no. I think some of these tracks that could have lights probably should. But I think a lot of people severely overestimate the power of the American electrical grid. America's grid system in most places, especially rural places like Talladega, Michigan, wherever, sucks or is prone to issues. That's the reason why Talladega will never get lights. There's other places. I know Dover, that people have said before, like, because there's an Air Force base nearby. I don't know how valid that is, but if people are, especially in the industry, are putting up that much of a fight about it, I don't think that's going to happen. The other part, and I don't remember who it was Bob or Jeff talking about it, but the other part of it is that some of these places can't justify the cost of putting them in and running the lights for one race a year, which I can get that a little bit too. But not as much as like those who have a real reason, like, oh, our electrical grid is complete ass and we can't do anything. I would like for there maybe at least to be some kind of extra lighting system. So maybe we have like an extra 20, 30 minutes added to these races. But at that point, you might as well just put in a full system. But I mean, I get the frustration. I really do, because there's so many races that have been run on Mondays, sometimes Tuesdays, that could have been run way earlier if there was that extra option. Well, Daytona has lights, and I can check on it really quick, but I believe that there's plenty of rain forecasted this week, so we're probably gonna need them. On top of it being a night race, obviously, I can check that really quick, and then we'll head on out. Come on, give me Daytona. Let's see what we got. Oh my God. Yeah, it's Daytona. And now I have the Weather Channel blocking it. So apparently I have to pay to use the Weather Channel online now. Kiss my ass. I'm out of there. Yep. Pretty much a 50-50 shot. It's Florida. It's what we expect. Scattered thunderstorms literally all week into next. So, well, you guys who have been wanting Saturday night races should be happy. This is a Saturday night race, so we'll at least have that to us too. So we'll have Sunday as a buffer room, even though we had the Milwaukee truck race on Sunday at noon or somewhere near noon, afternoon, wherever. Weather Underground, same thing. I mean, all of them. See, the thing is, all these places get their information and very similar information from National Weather Service, at least the professional ones. So to me, it really doesn't matter. AccuWeather says 65% chance of rain. Yay! AccuWeather's a little off. My app says similar things. It's Florida in the summer. It's Florida. What are we expecting? But that's gonna do it. Be sure to check us out tomorrow night on IDK Players channel for NWP 400. Should be a lot of fun. It won't rain at Daytona on that one. And then Danny B's channel this Wednesday night for the NWP main show. Should be a lot of fun. Should be some possible news breaking this week. Just saying, the appeals process ends Wednesday, so if it's overturned, we'll be able to talk about it. But thanks for coming out on your Monday, spending your Monday with me. I appreciate it a ton, and I'll catch you later this week. Later, y'all.